And welcome back. It's time for this week's Capitol Report with Pat McGuigan of CapitolBeatOK.com. Pat, in Kansas, a project that was supposed to take 2 years to complete took only 4 months thanks to 42 volunteers.
Yeah,
tell us about this story.
It's a great story. The Associated Press covered it, and I went online and found the Fort Hays newspaper, the Hays newspaper in Kansas. And it's a very interesting story because it's a little rural community many miles outside of town that had never had running water in the homes, indoor plumbing. And a lot of the people live away and come there and work, you know, the properties in the summer. Long story short, local family, 3 generations of farming in that particular area had expressed this hope, and they said it would help in local development to get a direct water pipeline into the area. Well, the state had $300,000 available. Interestingly enough, a lot of the news stories have been putting the emphasis on the $300,000 grant. But sort of buried down in the story that to me is the most illuminating part is that 42 friends, neighbors, people from around the region, contractors, they just said, well, we'll volunteer. We'll give you the help. So what was projected to take 2 years took 4 months. And now these folks all have indoor plumbing, and it's going to make a big impact in that part of Kansas. Now, you know, this is I'm calling them the Kansas Volunteers, and it's as American as apple pie.
Yeah.
And it brought to mind Alexis de Tocqueville, the great 19th century French writer who visited America, wrote Democracy in America, and saw these things and was just amazed by the kinds of things Americans can do to band together and not have to wait for somebody's permission. And it made me think of Women in Recovery, the Tulsa group that works with women coming out of prisons, with groups like the Oklahoma City Arts Festival, 5,000 volunteers every year, which keeps the budget for the Arts Festival remarkably low and reasonable. Because they have so many volunteers. So it's a very American kind of thing, and it's something I'm thankful for that's still a very crucial aspect of our society.
So maybe this is a good time to ask you to comment on the Pope's latest comments about capitalism.
Yeah, you know, John Paul II had an encyclical, a teaching document called The Gospel of Life, and now Pope Francis has brought forth the Gospel of Joy. And John Paul II and Benedict were known a little bit more for doctrine and for emphasizing the core of what Catholics believe. And Pope Francis is not rejecting any of that, but he is definitely calling people to solidarity, to human solidarity across class lines. He's pressing, and again, none of this contradicts his immediate predecessors, but it takes a different emphasis of calling people to a kinder, gentler, if you will, form of capitalism, and one where we take greater care of each other. I don't interpret it as a call to socialism because the popes have previously rejected socialism and in its most virulent form, communism. But this will be a time of discernment, and I plan to study it as a Catholic and a Christian because, you know, who's our brother's keeper? Well, we are. And I think that's really what he's emphasizing in this particular document.
The Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs released an analysis on Obamacare and Oklahoma. What are some of the insights from the report?
Yeah, I think the basic insight is their hunch is that the government of Oklahoma is going to stick to its guns, and that if anything, it's a very good, you know, straightforward, succinct 1,300 words analysis of where things stand, and it basically just goes through the history of the last 3 years, and it's always instructive to remind ourselves of the past. It was 3 years ago this month, November, that the people of Oklahoma passed a state question saying you can opt out. You don't have to take this, and it doesn't have to be enforced in the way that the feds are going to enforce it here in Oklahoma. Scott Pruitt, in his litigation, which we've discussed just recently, Insurance Commissioner John Doak, the legislature itself, they've all stood firm and for that matter have continued to try to find alternative ways to address these issues. And Governor Fallon has also stood firm so far. So we'll continue to watch that space. The lesson of history, they're probably not going to expand Medicaid in Oklahoma.
Right. All right. Well, you can read more about these and other topics at CapitolBeatOK.com. For Pat McGuigan, I'm Alex Cameron. Have a great day.